So let's talk about self-esteem and the importance of self-esteem. If I have any superpower, I think it would be my ability to see the talents and gifts that other people have. I can look at people and just see things that they can do that are amazing. And what's somewhat sad is a lot of times they can't see those things themselves. And I can relate because for much of my life, I I couldn't see a lot of the things that I had, and there's reasons for that in terms of just the external world, and sometimes how we were raised, sometimes our environment, sometimes just what we're conditioned to see or think or not think. But unfortunately, most people have no idea how amazing they are. You probably have no idea how amazing you are in so many different ways. A lot of that self-esteem. And one of the things about self-esteem that I learned from one of my coaches and mentors is it often initially comes externally, even though it's self-esteem, we get it from someone else. If someone else believes in you, then it's easier to start believing in yourself. And if you don't get that, that's a lot more difficult. And if you have those negative voices around you all the time, that's easier to focus on. That's easier to internalize and harder to develop that self-esteem. And as damaging as those external voices can be, that internal voice where you're telling those negative things to yourself in terms of your thoughts and your feelings is even worse. And it can paralyze you and it could keep you from accomplishing many things that because you simply don't believe in yourself and you simply don't take the action and you simply don't try. Fitness is one of those things. You get to the point where you don't see yourself as being successful. You don't see yourself as being capable of staying on a diet or staying with a workout program, or I can never look that way, or that's just not me, or that's easier for someone else, or whatever it is. Whatever thing that you're telling yourself, whatever limiting belief that's there for you can be holding you back. And so a lot of it has to do with developing your self-esteem, controlling your environment, understanding that a lot of the negative things that you've heard and believe are just simply not true. And you first have to identify what those are and see if there's any patterns in there and question whether or not they are true. And so you want to sit back and take a look and see where you can change those things. Because the truth is, you are incredibly capable. You can do so many different things, especially with fitness. I've seen transformations that are almost unbelievable. And those people weren't physiologically different than you or me. They just took the steps and stayed with them long enough. And maybe some of those steps are not steps that you've taken or I've taken or someone else has taken, but they're steps that can be done and they're doable and learnable and repeatable. So it starts with just believing and understanding that they're there. And you can get that from seeing someone else and say, oh, wow, if she did it, I could do it. Maybe if he did it, I could do it. And just having that possibility exist in your head is going to open that door for you. But that self-esteem sometimes needs to come externally. It comes from someone believing in you, it comes from me believing in you. So I believe right now, I'm telling you, you can make an amazing transformation. You can. I've seen it so many times. I've seen it more times than I can count. I've seen it in people that, you know, didn't think they could do it at all. People that weren't even trying or planning to do it. There's one guy that he was so depressed, he actually was trying to commit suicide. And he was overweight and unhealthy and didn't like his life. So he decided he was going to give himself a heart attack. His method for giving himself a heart attack, he was just going to go out and run and just basically jog until he just fell over from a heart attack. So that's what he did. He went out and he just jogged and he ran as far as he could with the intent of giving himself a heart attack. That was his choice to commit suicide. What happened was he just got exhausted and wound up stopping and having to walk back home, no heart attack, disappointed in himself, feeling even less about himself. A couple days later, he tried it again. I'm going to give myself that heart attack. I'm going to go out here and run and just end it all. That's, there'll be natural causes, and that's just what that is. Ran a little bit further, still didn't have a heart attack. a little bit confused. A couple of days later, he did it again. This time, maybe not so much trying to commit suicide, but just the pattern of seeing what he could do. He ran further. He kept repeating this. Ultimately, he started running further and further and further, getting endorphins from the exercise, actually losing weight, then feeling better about himself, started getting into fitness, getting into running, getting into eating better. He changed and transformed his life. That was not his original intent. That was not his original plan. It just happened that way. So think about that. If a guy that's so down on himself and so unbelieving in himself that he's trying to commit suicide can be given the gift of fitness without even believing it first and change his whole life and wound up losing. I'm not sure how many pounds he lost. He lost 50 to 60 pounds and really just transformed his life and his health and his attitude. If he can do that without believing in himself at all, you just believing in yourself a little bit to try, that's going to go a long way towards your success. And so understand how important you are, understand that you can and should believe in yourself, and give yourself the chance to try. Start developing your self-esteem. There's an article I've written below this that has some tips on self-esteem and prioritizing yourself. Another thing I want to talk about is three circles living. And that's a philosophy of my good friend and mentor, again, Todd Burrier, who wrote a book called Three Circles Living. Basically, what that philosophy is there's different areas of our life that we need to focus on. There's our health, there's our relationships, and there's our business or our finances. And a lot of times we do that in the wrong order. A lot of times people promote, you know, their businesses more than anything else as far as the forefront of their life. They're worried about their work and their career and their jobs and advancement and things like that. If you focus on that, those other things can suffer. And there's a lot of successful people that made all kinds of money and their marriage falls apart or their health falls apart. And we see that all the time. And then there's people that focus on their relationships. And your relation, and that's whether it's your love relationship or relationships with your family or your friends, very important. But if you neglect your health, if you don't take care of that, then you're not going to have the energy for your relationship. You're not going to have the longevity. You're not going to be able to put into that relationship, the best of you. And you're not going to be here long enough to really nurture that relationship the way you're capable of. So what Todd teaches is you have to prioritize your health and yourself first. By doing that, you're able to show up more for your relationships and they're going to be deeper and better and more longer lasting. You're able to show up better and more for your businesses and your heart-centered goals and focuses because there's more of you. If your health wanes, it's going to negatively affect those other two. And so that's what he calls three circles living. So I've included his video where he breaks down the whole process and how to incorporate that within your life. And it really works. And it's funny because I was living that philosophy, before I even met Todd. And like in my book, The Diet That Works, a preface is called Becoming a Diamond, and that's about investing in yourself through fitness and how by investing in yourself via fitness, you are at the same time investing in anything and anyone else you care about. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do right now. You are important. But if you can't find that as your biggest why, understand that by investing in and taking care of yourself, you are simultaneously investing in and taking care of all your relationships, your wife or your husband or your children or your parents or your coworkers, and you're also investing in your business, your ability to do your job, your ability to go to school, your ability to create finances, your ability to be successful. If you have the health, then you set up a foundation to do and be your best at those other things. If you don't take care of yourself and your health, then once that suffers, everything else is going to suffer as well. Stephen Jobs was a perfect example of that. He had so much, he'd done so much, he created so much through Apple. But once his health was gone, everything else went away. And all his millions he would have traded just to get his health back. So you want to make sure that you have the best health you can have, the best longevity you can have. And by doing so, you're going to have the best relationships you can have and the best, business, sense and success you can have as well. That's Three Circles Living. I would encourage you to check out Todd's video and even get his book. And I'll talk more about those principles later on. But developing that self-esteem, believing in yourself, tuning out those negative voices, understanding how important you are, how important fitness is. We'll talk about that next in the next module. But you are important. You are special. You are unique. You are that ocean condensed into that one drop. You are the whole universe condensed into that one ball of light. Believe those things. They're true. Even believe them a little bit. Even believe them just enough to start taking the steps. And once you start taking the steps, it will reflect back to you, and you're just going to start to get things out of fitness that, if you, especially if you've never tried it before, you never knew you were going to get. And it's going to feed you, it's going to nourish you. I can't even explain all the things I've gotten from following a fitness lifestyle that I never would have expected when I just started trying to build some muscle or play better in sports. So I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to believe in yourself, but I encourage you to understand that you are important enough to put the time, effort, and energy in. And once you start doing that, your body's going to give it back to you. The universe is going to give it back to you. And by investing in yourself, you're investing in everything else that you care about and everyone else that you care about, and use that as your why to be successful.